Okay, so I'm not gonna take too much credit for predicting the November 2nd release, because at that point it was kind of obvious and logical it was going to be like this, and it did. Blizzard has announced that the patch 9.1.5 is going to be released on November 2nd in NA and November 3rd in EU. So, of course, we have to go over the first big issue of this announcement. Blizzard goes on in their official patch notes and in their release article talking about all the new things they are adding: the Legion Mythic Timewalking, the Mage Tower Challenge, the removal of the AoE caps for many specs, and a series of other things. However, the first thing that is going to catch your eye, if you just read the fine print on the announcement, are these few lines at the bottom. Because where Blizzard is pointing out that patch 9.1.5 is going to come out November 2nd, the Legion Timewalking event is going to start and begin in the first week of December. So, quickly and easily enough, we can go and look at when the Timewalking for Legion starts on the calendar, which is December the 7th. And this is the first problem, of course. This is where players are going to get angry and frustrated at Blizzard because of their regression to their old vices. In this case, it is drip feeding the content, time gating the content to stretch the player base as much as possible for those juicy monthly active users. Because, of course, if the patch comes out in November and you do everything in November, there is a much higher chance that you will be already bored in December. So what's the solution? The solution is that you block part of what players were going to play the new patch for, which was the Legion Timewalking event, and you push it to December. So you might still have an incentive, you might still have a pool to go and play the new patch, because you can play multiple covenants now, because there is a list of catch-up mechanisms and systems for your alts, which you might still want to play, but then you might still want to stick around and play in December because the Legion Timewalking event begins. This is a classic Blizzard move, and as we see, it is being replayed here as well, which of course is not going to play out too nicely with the community. As I said weeks ago, this was supposed to play out like a nice easy win for Blizzard when it comes to this patch. After all, statistically, scientifically, and logically, it is a proven fact that this is the largest and biggest X.5 patch ever. We have never gotten a patch in between major patches, so in between a 0.1 and 0.2 or 0.2 and 0.3, as big as this one. So it should have been nice. It should have surprised players with extra content and better changes for the game. However, the deeper we went into the news, the worse it kind of all got, because in the end, we still had to wait for 7 months before we got 9.1, and it looks likely, very likely, that by this point we will have to wait another 6 to 7 months for 9.2. So even though technically speaking this would be, in a normal WoW expansion, this would be a very good patch, because you weren't supposed to get anything in a patch like this, and instead you get a lot. The content drought, which has surrounded this patch and will continue to surround this patch for quite a while, is going to sort of darken the mood of everyone involved, especially if you then add all the other things that Blizzard has been doing, especially going on a purging crusade, trying to remove any type of content in the game that is not deemed to be fit for players under the age of 4, because women are scary, as you know. So that's also another thing that has not played too well with the community recently. So this reveal that the Legion Timewalking event is going to be delayed by a full month is not gonna be nice to take in, honestly. A lot of people have tried to say that Blizzard is delaying this because they are trying to fight the Final Fantasy expansion Endwalker. I don't think it makes any sense, because, as I pointed out, despite this one being a larger patch than usual for this type of patch, it is still a minor patch. It's not a content patch. Why would you even want to pit this against a major expansion release of a competitor? If anything, you would be happy to release this months before or months after, so that players aren't in conflict with another game. So I don't think that has got anything to do with any type of competition. I think it has to do with monthly players. Essentially try to split the most sought after things of the patch over the course of 2 months. November for all of the quality of life changes for your covenants and catch-up systems, and then December for the Legion Timewalking. I think that's simply it. Now, talking about the Mage Tower itself, which at this point is going to have a little bit less of an importance, since we now know it's over a month away, because it's going to come out in December. But one thing worth noting, since now you might have some time to go and look for these things, is the fact that the Mage Tower is going to scale your item level down to 50. It's not going to scale your level, just the item level of your items, which means you can now go and look for old expansion items that might be good for the Mage Tower itself. We pointed out not borrowed powers, so you can't go and look for Legion legendaries, you can't go and look for Azerite armor with Azerite traits. Of course, Covenants, Soulbinds and Shadowlands legendaries are disabled, Shards of Domination are disabled as well, and a series of other borrowed powers are disabled, but normal items, so legendaries that you can obtain over the course of a long time, especially if they are drop related, chance related, things like Valanir from Wrath of the Lich King or Dragon Wrath from Cataclysm, etc., those are still usable. The cloak, funnily enough, the cloak from BFA, Ajira Kamas, is also equipable in the Mage Tower, as well as old items that might be good. For example, you can regem your entire gear with old expansion gems, which are going to scale better down to level 50. You can use better enchants that are no longer scaled up to Shadowlands. You can use good old effects like the Cyclotronic Blast trinket from BFA, from Mechagon. You can now use it in the Mage Tower. So you still might have some ways to essentially twink your characters to get into the Mage Tower. And hey, look at the bright side, you now have much more time if you wanted to pick up all of these items compared to before, because the Mage Tower is going to be out a month and a half from now. What is also worth mentioning, talking about this Timewalking event, is that the Legion Mythic Plus Timewalking is also going to have its rewards. You will still be able to get Time Ward badges from the Legion Mythic Plus keys, just like you were normally, and there are going to be some special reward events for this Legion Timewalking. You have a new mount, you have a new toy, you have the replica of the artifact shield from the Paladin from Legion, which you can buy as a transmog piece, and the special Ravencrest Battleplate transmog set that you can buy from the Legion Timewalking vendor. So that is going to be the set of rewards available in the Legion Timewalking, which are arguably less important, less big than the ones from the Mage Tower, but still, if you want to have some good time playing the Legion Timewalking, you're gonna get some rewards as well. Another thing worth pointing out, except this time no more about this Legion Timewalking event, because I don't want to twist the knife and continue remembering everyone that it's gonna be weeks and weeks away. So about the things that will actually happen in just a couple of weeks. Just in case you have forgotten, remember, first of all, that from November 2nd, basically you will be able to constantly repeat Torghast runs to get Soul Ash and Soul Cinders without any type of cap. So I know, if you stopped doing Torghast because you were bored, I don't assume you're gonna start doing it all of a sudden in 9.1.5, but at the very least now you know that if you want to get a legendary leveled up instantly to max level, it's gonna take you roughly 4 back-to-back runs of Torghast to get your full 262 legendary if you want. Another thing worth pointing out is that the Rune Carver in 9.1.5 will be able to offer to you to destroy an existing legendary item to refund 100% of the Soul Ash or Soul Cinders you have used to craft it with, and to make it easier for players thinking about leveling up alts and whatnot. Now the legendary drop rates for your legendaries are going to have a 100% chance to drop in all of the dungeons. So you no longer have to just hope for some RNG drops to get it. It's going to be guaranteed. We do have also the skips, the QOL skips. You have alts on accounts that have completed already the Mo introductory questline can now completely skip it since the start. This goes hand in hand for the other couple of skips that were already introduced in 9.1, the ones for your campaign and the ones for your Torghast introductory that you can skip already. So now you will be able to add to that also this one, the introductory Mo questline. Not that important, perhaps a little bit more for auction house enthusiasts. Most of the materials from professions are going to have a 20% increased drop rate. So things like Elitium ore for miners, or callus and heavy callus hide for leather workers, or lightless silk for tailors increased by 20%. We have gone through already the entire list of catch-up systems for Cortia, where you will be earning way more research right now, roughly over 50% compared to what you're earning already. Also worth remembering, everyone, as we went over this already, is that now island expeditions will be soloable. You can now queue up for normal, heroic or mythic without the need of a party. Now, interestingly enough, we haven't really gotten that many changes around balance. One of the things we pointed out is that usually these type of QOL patches don't have much content, but what they do is balance tuning. Instead, this patch kind of did the opposite. They did everything else and more except actual balance tuning of classes and specs. There hasn't been too much. Of course, the only thing that has been there has been the AoE cap retuning of several of the specs, as well as the Covenant ability buffs and nerfs, mostly buffs, mostly buffing of the bad Covenant abilities for several of the classes and specs, but not really too many key balance changes to major abilities and mechanics of each of the classes. These classes, however, will still have to get into Mythic Plus, which has been changed, because bolstering has gotten nerfed. Now bolster only lasts 20 seconds when previously it was permanent. Necrotic Wound, this is the bigger one, by far the bigger one. Necrotic Wound debuff goes from lasting 9 seconds to lasting only 6, so the amount of kiting required from your tanks is going to drop down significantly, and also Raging, the damage increase that it gives to the enemies is going to be cut from 75 to 50%. So we finished the list of these major changes for this upcoming patch with the bigger one for me. Honestly, I think that this is much bigger for the game, especially on the long term, than Legion Timewalking, which is the Covenant change. Players who reach 80 renown with any Covenant will be able to freely switch among any of the 4 Covenants without cooldown or without restriction. In addition, cosmetic rewards that have been earned from any one of these Covenants will be able to be used even if that character is currently a member of a different one. So if you have your full-on, bright, shiny Bastion set, you can go and become a Necrolord player still using that Bastion set. So I think that overall for the game, this is going to be a bigger change than the Legion Timewalking event. Of course, we might ask ourselves, why exactly did we need to have the Legion Timewalking event to last only for 2 weeks? Because that's kind of confusing. After all, I heard some people say that this was to basically push people to play the game because of the fear of missing out. This is the new buzzword people have been using basically everywhere, in every sentence. If they can't use FOMO, they're not happy. I don't think it makes too much sense, because if they wanted players to keep playing, I still think 2 weeks is a little bit too short of a window. I think it could have been much longer. After all, the next time is going to be months from now, like 5 months, 4 months from now, when you can redo this event, this Legion event. So I think they could have stretched it for longer. I don't agree with the logic that it should last just like any other Timewalking event, be it Warlords or Mists or Wrath or Legion. The Legion Timewalking has gotten a facelift, has gotten upgraded to this new system that we got in this new patch, so I think it deserves to be longer. Nobody gives a shit about the Warlords Timewalking event being as long as the Legion one. The Warlords Timewalking is still the old, outdated Timewalking event that nobody does unless you're trying to level an alt or something, whereas this Legion event is much bigger and much more enjoyable to do than the old Timewalking system we've had for years, so it made sense to have this Timewalking event to last much longer. I don't really understand the decision to make it this short. However, I have known at this point Blizzard to make decisions, and not always they make too much sense, honestly. That being said, we can stop here for today. After all, we might have had a little bit more urgency to go over the changes of this patch if all of the patch came at once. Turns out not really, though. For the time being, we can stop here. Thank you guys for watching the video. If you have enjoyed the content and want to support the channel, you can leave a like to the video, comment down below on just how depressed you are at the moment after these news, and if you want as well, if you took an IQ test and got above 124, you can also subscribe to the channel. See you guys soon, and in the meantime, it's that time of the season. 17 open builds and not a single clue of what to play.